Hey, paisans, the time has come. On the air since 2009, the independently produced, non-FCC compliant champ of video game talk podcasting. Here comes Tiger Claw Radio. Here's your host, Critical Failure.
Welcome everybody to Tiger Claw Radio. I'm your host, Critical Failure, and what a week it's been. What a week it's been. All right, so there is actually a new version of the Battle of the Bits available. It's one of the Spring Tracks one. I think it's Spring Tracks 9, and then also entries closed for for Summer Tracks 10 this past week. Big chiptune week. So this was the last week I was able to go snag a few mid contest entries for Summer Tracks 10. So we got some good chiptunes to play. And some video games to talk and all kinds of cool stuff. So stick with us. We'll be right back. That was Meganoid with Wanna Chase. That was a Sid sound chip song. One of the old Commodore 64 sound chip. The kind of thing you would have heard on a splash screen while you saw some sort of graffiti signature of who it was who was able to crack the copy of Barbarians 2 that you are actually sitting down to play at any given time. Alright, so that said, let's do this. I got a bit here that we're going to jump back to Saturday afternoon, which is yesterday. Let's go there now. This is being recorded on Saturday afternoon at 1:39. I don't know when I'm going to be able to put together this week's show, so I wanted to make sure and take some time to, chill out and talk about some games. It's been really crazy. I mean, this time of year, it's always really crazy for me, particularly leading up to the end of September. And then when October comes, things get really chilled out. So this is just kind of how it is for the next few weeks, the next 4 or 5 shows, and that's not a big deal. So I scratched down a few notes on what's going on in terms of video games here. I think I mentioned this in episodes past, but I've been clearing out space in my home, just finding things that haven't been messed with, and passing them along to new people. So that's been pretty exciting. because I found I had a lot of things that just weren't getting touched, and the opening up of new space, I feel I'm making new space so that new games can be acquired. Let's turn back the clock, probably about a year and a half, maybe even 2 years by now. You guys know Sendu over from Light Studios, EmeraldRangers.com. He sold me a Sega Master System for very, very cheap. Very cheap. Basically, he gave me a Sega Master System and just asked me to pay for the shipping. Is really what it boils down to. It's a very, very sweet thing to do. So I got this Sega Master System, and as if you might recall, if you've been with the show that long, that not just... It didn't just get me into the Sega Master System. It was the first time in a long time I got to experience, hey, this is a brand new system. I can explore the library and check stuff out. Bought a few games, got into it, and then all of a sudden I was collecting physical games again, which I hadn't been doing for many years. So it started with the Sega Master System, and then I branched out into getting more Genesis stuff again, and mostly disc-based things, PS1 games, and PS2, Xbox 360, original Xbox, whatever I could find. So we make regular trips to the thrift store here, and as it turns out, the market value for the later disc-based games has bottomed out. PS2 and Xbox 360 and original Xbox in particular. PS3 is also incredibly cheap, only slightly less so. You're talking about $5 for the other systems, and then $8 to $10 for the PS3. Although Swingle, I think, might correct me on that one, but that's just based on a quick look prior to recording today's show. To sum it up, disc-based games, really cheap. Wii games, all that sort of stuff. As long as you're not getting something with Mario's face on it, because those are really inflated. Or GameCube games, I think, are also expensive now for some reason. But anyway, I would go to the thrift store, and I would find these games that were previously super expensive. They would just show up in mass, right? A lot of old Call of Duty games are getting passed around to the thrift store right now. A lot of shooters in general, which, by the way, that was my niche for a long time, was shooters. So I acquired a lot of those types of games for very cheap and very quickly, and I ended up building a video game mountain that went on the shelf and just never got touched. So when I say I'm talking about clearing out space, I'm not talking about clearing out beloved games. You know what I'm saying? At this point, it's just the things that haven't been touched that I don't know what to do with. I've been able to pull that back just a little bit, which has been amazing. So having done that and being able to clear up some space, it's kind of opened up the idea of the ability to get a new game again. I've returned to my roots of only being interested in games that I would want to play and no longer games that I'd want to collect. But now I can actually look. The last game that I bought just to collect was, during that time actually, it was Star Ocean, the second story. Star Ocean 2 for the PS1. Told that story many times on the air, why that game is significant, but that game was a game where it's like I knew I wasn't going to play all the way through it, but I wanted to have it anyway. Now, with all that behind me, I'm only interested in games I'm going to play. So, what would that be? First and foremost, the games from that era that were really expensive were produced in mass. And so, because so many copies were made, a lot of there's games that are really good that go for really cheap. For example, Grand Theft Auto 3 for the PS2. Like the original Grand Theft Auto 3. Dirt cheap game. Get on eBay. You can get one of those for less than $5 shipped. Even less than that if you just want the disc and you're going to put it in like a CD flip folder, which is a route I think I might end up going. Gears of War. I remember people going crazy for these Gears of War games. Now, those have been cheap for a long time, so that's not something that's really changed. This is just a quick note about how the market has fluctuated. To be fair, I got my copy of Gears of War 1 and 2 when they were cleaning out Xbox 360 games from GameStop. This was many years ago. And my copies were both 99 cents. So now they're not as cheap as 99 cents, but you can get a Gears of War game $5 shipped. No problem. I remember when Gears of War 3 came out, that was when I was still a Classic Elite. I remember them being really pumped for Gears of War 3 and them those guys buying that game for big money. That one's not 99 cents. I think it's like $6 for Gears 3. Okay, Call of Duty games, very little value. Even Call of Duty 3, which is only available on consoles, that game never made it to the PC. You can get Call of Duty 3 for like $6. All right, so we've established that games from that era, by and large, very cheap. What does that mean for me? Not just that I was able to clear out some of those games, but I want a new racing game. I think that's what I'm interested in right now. I've got a game for the original Xbox that I enjoy quite a bit called Project Gotham Racing 2. And I don't know it well because I've only sat down with it a few times, but I want to dig that out and play it. And then I found, when I was looking things up, that the Project Gotham Racing series, it went on a few games after that. Project Gotham Racing 3 and 4 both exist on the Xbox 360, and they're both $6 a piece. So what I'd like to do, sit down with that first game again, that original Xbox game that I liked so much, and see if I still dig it, and then maybe move on to 3 or 4. Get some Xbox 360 racing going. It might be fun. There was also a game, there's a Forza Motorsport, which amongst racing sim people, the Forza games were, it's a big Keystone series from what I understand. But eventually, when I was going through my racing game kick, Forza was moving over to like the exclusive Microsoft store, and that's when I was still on Windows 7. So you couldn't get Forza on Windows 7, so I kind of overlooked that entire series. Well, there's a Forza game, Forza Motorsport 4 for the Xbox 360, which runs about $9. That might be interesting as well. So that's kind of cool. I'm digging the idea that games are acquirable again. I mean, Phantasy Star Online is one that keeps coming up. This is like the third or fourth week in a row I've mentioned it. Maybe it's time to get Phantasy Star Online or something. I don't know. I haven't locked sights on a game that I'm after right now, but I've been enjoying the fact that there is space to do so. Okay, so that said, what do you think my next target should be? Just opening the discussion. There's the systems that I would get for probably not PS3 because my PS3 is still down where the family is. So there isn't a whole lot I could play on that. I could get a decent racing game because I think those are pretty much universal. Or if I wanted to get like a sports game or something, I could do that. But I'm not going to sit down and play like a shooting game or something like that in front of my young children. Maybe Bejeweled. I get a nice hard copy of a good old Bejeweled 3. Anyway, I got some space. I got to fill it up again with more junk immediately because that's how this works, right? Lately here at home, we still get up Saturday mornings and we have sort of a kids club video game time where the two big kids play video games. And my older son is interested in side-scrolling games, particularly side-scrolling platformer games that contain level editors. We've been playing this Battle Block Theater game quite a bit, and I equate Battle Block Theater a lot to like Super Meat Boy, except it's not quite as zoomed out. It's you're looking a little bit closer to the action than in Super Meat Boy, but it's hand drawn just like that, and the graphics closely resemble Alien Hominid, or Castle Crashers. This is the same team, and I mentioned this in weeks past, but we've had some good sessions of opening up a level editor and just laying out simple levels and having a good time. I equate this very, very close to Jetpack. That's what this game reminds me of. If you know Jetpack from MS-DOS, this is one of the videos I did early in the Tiger Claw TV series back, however many years ago when I started on YouTube. So that's one game, but another good one like it, Terry Kavanaugh's VVVVVV, right? That's a classic. It's been pretty awesome to open that up. I got to see my kids try and make a level with that thing. I've never actually done that, believe it or not, but VVVVV has had a level editor in it forever. The only person I've ever met who actually messed with it and made a level in it was good old Retro Kaiser. He made like a joke level years ago when they first rolled that feature out. And that was really it. So that's been cool. All right, what do we got here? We talked a little bit about the crashing market of disc-based games and how I cleaned up some space. We talked a little bit about some of the racing games I might consider getting. Like with the philosophy of only buying games to play them. one of the things that precludes is like I was previously interested in getting Oblivion for the 360, right? Because I like the Elder Scrolls games. I do. I haven't put a million hours into them like some hardcore fanatics have, but they're enjoyable. I'm going to pass on that now because I have Oblivion on Steam, and chances are, knowing me, if I'm going to sit down and play a game for a really long time, it's probably going to be the Steam version, especially on a game that's highly moddable like Oblivion. Still an awesome game, but probably not going to seek out and get the Xbox version. Same with Morrowind. As much as I love Morrowind to death, I'm sticking with the PC on that one for the sake of space. All right, what else we got? I have two notes left. One is gems on Super Nintendo, which is something that's been kicking around in my head, and the other one is an update to Audacity. Let's talk about the Audacity thing first. So Audacity, one of the things I like about Audacity is that it does not auto-check for updates. It just lets you use it, and that's fine. But for me, since it doesn't force me to check for updates, I usually never update it, and it doesn't get updated until I have to wipe my system or migrate to a new computer. Well, just for fun, I was getting all my tools updated this past week, early in the morning, and it turned out Audacity had an update, so I went to check it out, and one of the things their latest update changed was that Audacity now works with VSTs. Do you know what a VST is? I know where half of us are into like making music on computers and whatnot, but those are those plugins that most of the time play instruments or whatnot, either instruments or effects. Audacity will now run non-instrument VSTs. So if you get a plugin that does like a killer reverb or something, then you can plug it into Audacity and then use it, which I think is pretty neat. That's been pretty cool. I did not take the time to get any because I do have a bunch of VSTs, but they're all the instrument kind. But if you're a big Audacity user, that is quite a feature, because apparently that's something you've been able to do forever, but it required an additional like mod plugin to do it. So, brief update in Audacity. If you're an Audacity user, it might be worth it to just jump on over to the website, take a look at the version number that you're using, and compare it to what the newest one is, because it appears they added real features. Since smartphones have become prevalent, what I think of updates has changed, right? Now I usually think of updates as, so this is going to break features, or this is going to slow down the CPU, or I don't know. Updates are no longer equate to a good thing in my mind. But in this case, it actually is a good thing. So if you're using Audacity, something to watch for. Final thing in my notes is just the words gems on Super Nintendo. And I can't even remember where I was going with this when I wrote it down, but I can tell you, not this weekend, but last weekend, watching my daughter play some Super Nintendo games, it reminded me of some of the games I played on the Super Nintendo back in the day that were more obscure. We're talking about like bargain bin B-card games that I had fun with. Because when it comes to Super Nintendo, usually people tend to hit on the same beats. It's always the Mario games. It's always the Final Fantasies are big ones. It's always Chrono Trigger. That one comes up a lot. Mario Kart, all that stuff. But what about Vortex? When's the last time you heard anybody talk about Vortex? We were big fans of Star Fox in my house, and I never moved beyond the original Star Fox, because I know that Star Fox had a sequel, right, on Nintendo 64, where the do a barrel roll meme came from, and all that stuff. But the original Star Fox introduced the Super FX microchip. It was one of 3 games I knew of that carried it. An additional chip that they put on the directly on the cartridge, or the board of a cartridge, to enable some 3D graphics. Textureless 3D graphics, but 3D graphics nonetheless. Especially when you talk about use of 3D, or that early a 3D, that kind of roots, almost like 1980s looking 3D, is something I really enjoy. I think it's in a separate class from like the PS1 era early 3D. This is super cool, in my opinion. So the 3DFX microchip was in Star Fox most famously, but it was also in a game called Stunt Race FX, where you would drive these little cars that had eyeballs in the front, and you would do racing games. And then it was also in a mech game called Vortex. where it was a lot like Star Fox, but instead of being in a plane, you were in a mech that could kind of change shape in a couple ways. That was a super cool game. Funny thing about Vortex is I had a copy of that when I was a kid that I got from like a thrift store or a pawn shop or something, and I remember trying to sell it. I took my Super Nintendo games down to the pawn shop, and I can't remember the reason why I was selling them off, but in that case, I remember the owner going through the Super Nintendo games, coming to Vortex, and being like, nah, man, not this one. It was a good game. It deserved better than that, but that guy was a businessman. It didn't have anything to do with the content of the game. It was what he cared about was, if I put this on my shelf, what's the likelihood that someone's going to walk in and take it home? So, business is business. I get that. But good old Vortex deserved more than it got. Vortex is one that that sticks out in my mind of old games. I haven't heard that game brought up, I don't think, at all since those days. So not what I would call an underrated gem, because it definitely was not as good as the games that were popular. But if you want to check out a game that deserved, I don't know, might be worth looking at, that's one you can look up. This is like a weird one to fit into this conversation, but Pit Fighter. My older brother got a game called Pit Fighter, which is like a derpy kind of fighting game, and I can't remember how he acquired it, but it was the kind of thing where he didn't know what the game was before he bought it. He just saw, okay, looks like there's fighting people on there, and we'll just, we'll throw down the $15 or whatever it costs to get a used cartridge at the time. And he brought it home and tried it, and he hated it. He's like, this is awful. I can't even wrap my head around this. This is so bad. And me, knowing it was bad, I was like, all right, we'll give it a try. So this was a game where I wasn't like let down. I already knew that my older brother had this game. It was really bad. Let's give it a shot and see if I can find any fun in it. And I had a good fun. I had a lot of fun with Pit Fighter. Just derping around and just slapping around the other person and getting knocked out once and it being game over or whatever. Was it a good game? No, not at all. Not even close to a good game. But I did enjoy it. And that's really what it boils down to, is was there enjoyment there? Pit Fighter is not one I would say look up. Like, whereas Vortex, hey, yeah, if you've never seen this game, it might be worth taking a look. Pit Fighter, no. You can never look at Pit Fighter and you'll be just fine. Pit Fighter was one. I think, not to go on huge tangents, but I think Clay Fighter was another one. I remember seeing Clay Fighter at, my older brother had a buddy in the neighborhood, and I remember going to his place, and he had it. I saw, I think, a lot of the big name Super Nintendo games there for the first time at this boy's house. He had Clay Fighter, and he had Illusion of Gaia, which is an awesome game, and he had... that's the first place I ever saw the Street Fighter games. He had Street Fighter 2. So, yeah. I kind of rushed back to the Super Nintendo days this past week, briefly. But here's the thing. When I say I'm thinking back at the Super Nintendo days, I'm not thinking about today, where it's like dudes making shows on the internet or having full access to the entire ROM library or any of that stuff. I'm talking about what was actually happening in the late 90s. Mid-90s, when these games were coming out, and having a Super Nintendo was like a hot commodity. So yeah, I don't know, there were some good times to be had, man. Good times to be had back when NBA Jam was like a feared and revered title, and not just like a sports game, a generalized sports game. All right, that's a jolly 20 minutes of rambling that went nowhere. I like video games. We talk about them. Okay, that's all for now. Alright, boys and girls, it's time for another one from Battle of the Bits. This is Toby Comey with The District on Tiger Claw Radio. Back again in the studio. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. This is the summer series. We are ushering in the new school year. This is, I believe, this coming week is the last week of summer for the kids. So we're going to do what we can to try and have things go out with a bang for the youngins. In the meantime, I want to take a quick second to thank the sponsors. This is a Patreon-sponsored program. These fine individuals give of their resources to make sure we can come back every single week, week after week, no matter what, somehow, some way. So to them, I offer early access to the show when it gets done early, because here we are, Sunday night, 9:44. I'm still putting it together. But as soon as it gets up, as soon as it gets done, it goes up for them, and then Monday morning it goes up for everybody else. I offer them early access when I can. I also read their names off in the Hall of Distinguished Gentlemen. They are Hemrock, EmeraldRangers.com, Tecmo Balls, Dorobka, Konstantin Kelman, and Eric Kentroller. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you're enjoying the party. All right. That said, let's do this. Can we talk for a minute about... it took me a minute to remember his name. Chris Boers, the irate gamer. Do you guys remember that guy? Back in the early days, around the time I was just getting started on YouTube, James Rolfe was the hottest thing on YouTube. He was the guy everybody wanted to be like, and he was the guy everybody copied. So the irate gamer being one of those copies, you know, at the time it was really hip to bash the irate gamer, and he was, you know, I guess a lesser version. But they did. Chris started making videos again as the irate gamer, like just a little while ago, and he actually did one. There actually was a crossover. James recorded himself a little bit, did a quick take for. What was the game? I want to say Aladdin, but that's not right. No, it was Dick Tracy. Yeah. And so there was an actual crossover. I think it's kind of funny. You know, whatever. Yeah, just imagine if that had come out in 2009. Back when videos like that were what was paying the bills, man. I think the existence of that video is kind of like when Sonic the Hedgehog showed up in Smash Brothers Brawl. It was just like, yeah, we're in a different time now. Everything's changed. All right, let's do one more from Battle of the Bits, and then we'll read the comments. Stick with me.
The galaxy is at peace.
That's Vera Vax with Peace on the Beach. Very peppy tune, a little peppier than we usually hear on TCR. But good stuff. Good stuff. Alright, so let's do the comments. This is the good old fail bag. Look, we're running late. It might be a little bit of a short episode this week, but we're gonna do what we can do. I have if you want to converse, you're probably listening to this on YouTube. Just drop down and leave a comment. If you know me personally, shoot me an email. Let's just be real clear about what I can and can't read on the air, so that we don't have any problems. I'm gonna go back a week, and let's see what we got. Yeah. Desm101 writes 14 minutes and 43 seconds in. I similarly only played through most of the first Phantasy Star on the Master System. Tried the second game and gave up kind of quickly around the first dungeon. I tried a little bit of 3 and 4, and it seems like it could be the best one on the Genesis. Seems like the fourth could be the best one on the Genesis. I still need to give PSO a try. I noticed there's one for PSP. I might pick that one up and give it a go. Portable systems and RPGs go together like PB and J. Great tunes as usual, man. Awesome. Appreciate that. Yeah, I really liked the first Phantasy Star game. I bought I want to say clone, but that's not right. I bought a reproduction card of Phantasy Star 4. And it turns out I can't save on it, so I didn't get very far in that. It's a cool looking game though. Somebody told me that game was $100 when it launched to get like a new copy of it back in the day. My goodness, I can't even imagine. Desm, hope you're doing well, man. Hope you're doing well. Here we go. Death Adder writes, I'm not really a big King of Fighters guy. They're decent fighters, but the characters just don't look cool like Sub-Zero or Fulgor or Morgan from Darkstalkers. Just a bunch of guys in blue jeans. So I think that keeps me from getting more into it. Mai is, of course, the exception. God bless the Asian man who drew Mai. Sip of tea for for Mai. Yep, that's right. Sip of tea for Mai. Mai was, of course, the first character I played from King of Fighters. Because before I played a King of Fighters game, I was playing Mugen. Okay, where you just download the characters individually. Because this was the '90s version of Mugen. This was Mugen off of like dialing into AOL and crawling the internet for individual characters, because you couldn't just download an entire build of Mugen. Nobody had that kind of bandwidth. It would have taken, assuming you could find one on a site somewhere, it would have taken hours and hours and hours. You would have turned it on before you went to sleep, and then it would still be running when you woke up. And on top of that, the internet back in those days, there were protocols where you would get booted from the internet. Depending on what your service was, you would get booted from the internet after a certain amount of time, just to stop you from doing that. But yeah, I came across Mai, and I think I was just downloading random characters. And yeah, that was my introduction to King of Fighters. My buddy Enji was with me at the time. He's the one who showed me how to Mugen worked. He was like, yeah, she's from King of Fighters. There's a lot of good characters there. Sure enough. I don't know, man. There is certainly a good number of generic characters from King of Fighter. I'm not gonna lie to you on that one. But there's some legit awesome character design as well. Kula, come on now. Kula's pretty bad. Pretty awesome. All right. Death Adder, hope you're doing well, man. I did get your second comment that you left, leaving your information for us to play games together. I copied it to a text file and then I deleted it so that no one else could get it to, try and protect your identity a little bit. But I did get that. I'm hoping we can play some Dead by Daylight before too long. Light Studios says, I will gladly take any games you don't have space for. If there was ever a bro who deserved a box of free games, it's freaking Light Studios. I spent a lot of time thinking about how I can make this happen because I got a good number of games that I can't really sell because they're not worth a whole lot of money. And I don't know what to do with. I don't really want to throw them out, and I'm kind of too scared to go to the thrift store. And if I get like a big box, I can't go to the. I don't want to go to the post office either. I'm still working it out, Sendu. I have a few that I wouldn't mind sending your way, but we'll work it out. It's good to hear from you. What else do we get? Yeah, that's right. I posted a video this past week of my stack of PS1 imports. This is a stack of PS1 imports I've been talking about on the show for months now. Finally, as far as I know, all the ones that are coming have came, and I dusted them off and went through them. Did pretty well, at least as videos from me go. Let's see. Oh, wait. Hold on. I had the filter on for comments I haven't responded to. Let's see. Is there anything I missed? I think I got everything. All right. Let's go into the... Yeah, okay. Martina Axon says, more PSX. I have recently recorded a few Japanese racing games with PSX that I don't see here. You can see and buy for your collection. Yeah, Martina Axon. I haven't gone to check that out, but there's somebody, doing the grind, making the videos, trying to get their channel up and running. Let's pop in and take a look. I see a lot of PSN games. Not PSN. I see a lot of PlayStation 1 games on this channel. Just where the thumbnail is the cover of the game. This person's ID, by the way, the girl chewing the bubblegum, I recognize that from the first... I think it's the first Twisted Metal. It might be Twisted Metal 2. Yeah, it's got to be Twisted Metal 2. Yeah, that was the character who Grasshopper. Yeah, Grasshopper. That's who it is. Awesome. Alright, so these are like 10, 12 minutes apiece, and a lot of them. These are all like from 5 days ago. All racing games. GT Kai. Let's see what we got here. HD 4K 33. 20 minutes long. Sorry about that. Alright, I didn't let it run long enough to see if there was an... Actually, can I drop that down a little bit so that it's listenable? There we go. We're looking at GT Kai All Japan Grand Touring Car Championship PSX gameplay HD 4K number 333. I don't think there's any commentary in this. This is a cool looking game though. We're looking at sort of like a... I want to say top-down racing game. This looks very much like an RC Pro-Am, but it's on the PS1. Wow, that really does look sweet. It's made with sprite work. Sprite work on top of what looks like primitive 3D, but it might not be 3D. Yeah, I like it. I dig the music. That's definitely import music. Alright, that's Martina Axon. I'm gonna go ahead and sub on that one, because why not? That one gets a thumbs up. Alright, let's get back to the comments. Mad respect for anybody trying to build especially a gaming channel, in the sea of gaming channels. Desm101 says, nice collection, man. Some very fun games in there, like Ace Combat and Chocobo Racing. That cardboard piece is called the Spine Label Card, or Spine Card. They came on Saturn games as well, and they can sometimes affect the price. I can't imagine what one of those would look like on a Saturn game, because Saturn games were huge. Oh wait, no, not the import Saturn games though. Import Saturn games came in like regular jewel cases, didn't they? At least for the majority of the Saturn lifespan. Yeah, I have to think so. That's cool. Thanks for clearing that up. Much appreciated. It's something I like about buying import games. I don't know why we didn't get them here in the States, but oh well, what are you gonna do? Swingo writes, lol at the Lupin the Third game. It's surprising how many modern games didn't have much of a language barrier in Japan. Cool digs. Yeah, what are you gonna do? If you didn't watch the import video, what he's talking about is in my PSN games, my PSX games from Japan. One of them is one of them's a pachinko game with a somewhat exploitive cover. It's not an exploitive game. It's just pachinko, but the cover looks a wee bit exploitive. And if you look up that series, they're kind of all that way. So I don't know. Yeah, lol. I guess. Lol it up, brother. Swingle, by the way, thanks for commenting. Thanks for hanging out. It's always good to hear from you. Larry freaking Bundy Jr. My goodness. Good old Guru Larry checked in on the Japanese import games. If you like collecting Japanese PS1 games, there's a guy on eBay who does joblets of 100 random ones. Quite interesting to thumb through. A couple of doubles, a few JRPGs. Got a copy of Final Fantasy VIII with a pirate copy of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. It's about $50 to $60, free shipping amazingly, but it's fun to see what you get. There's quite a few Japanese exclusive ports of Western games too, like Zoop and Quarantine, and obviously Mortal Kombat 2. That is pretty amazing. I don't know if I would drop $60, $50 to $60 on PS1 games at this time, but a huge box of 100 games, that's not too bad. Guru Larry, man, I'm a huge fan. I always get a big smile whenever you check in, brother. Hope you're doing well. Demez says, I wonder if pachinko made in China are called pajapko. I don't get it. What is that? Is there like a language thing? Do they like pronounce that syllable differently? I don't know. I'm not quite sure I get it. Maximum RD, another like main staple of the YouTube gaming community, says nice imports, man. Awesome to hear from him. Is that it? How'd we do? We're 45 minutes in. All right, that's it. I gotta call it a show, otherwise this isn't gonna make it out. You know what? No, before we call it a show, let's go back to Martina Axon's channel. We got 15 minutes left. Let's just flip around this channel and see what we got. So they mentioned racing games, and it looks like is it just racing games on this channel? They're let's plays with no comments, that's for sure. So it looks like somebody who this must just be how they play PS1. They just, alright, we're going to sit down and play. They're not all racing games. Look, I see Mega Man Legends here. Street Fighter, the movie, the game. Woodstock 99 pay-per-view disc 12. Oh, wow. Brain Dead 13. You guys remember Brain Dead 13? You ever play that game? It's like the horror movie version of Dragon Lance? Dragon something? It's one of those games where you like press the right button at the right time to get through the cartoon. Give me a second. This is worth looking up. Yeah. Yeah. I saw NG play this 20 years ago, and it legit freaked me out, brother. It really freaked me out. So there's a guy with a hook on a hand, and he's looking around, and there's a thing. The only thing about watching a Let's Play of this, here, let's skip ahead a little bit, is one of the things that made it cool is that the deaths were all unique. Alright, so without that... Oh, that's the intro. Yeah, if I'm just watching like a flawless Let's Play, then I don't know. Yeah, this is a game I'd love to have again. We talk about opening the door to buying new games. Brain Dead 13. How much does Brain Dead 13 go for? We're gonna do this, boys and girls. We're heading over to eBay. Brain Dead 13. And now I have a Sega Saturn, because on Sega Saturn, it is $85. That's okay. I want it on the PlayStation. On the PlayStation long box, it's $64, trending at $80. That breaks my heart a little bit. What is that? PC DOS CD-ROM? Yeah, for PC CD-ROM, you can get it for like $13-14. It must be incredibly difficult to get running. 1995, yeah, it's right there in that Windows 95, Windows 98 era, where the games are like lost in time, and that those PC games are only accessible if it was a huge title that has been ported, like something that's been brought to Steam. Because the CDs I have from that era hanging around, there's just no way to play them now, unless you have one of those computers. Yeah, so Brain Dead 13 is a game I wouldn't mind playing, but I see it prohibitively expensive, so I don't see that happening. That said, this YouTube video is just what the doctor ordered, so I'm going to go ahead and smash that like button and add this to the old watch later list for when I'm lying in bed trying to sleep, which is where I'll be in just a few minutes.
Alright, how we doing? Can we get Dave going? Where's that Dave song? Come on now. That's a little loud. There we go. Is that doable? Jeez. Well, boys and girls, you know what that sound means. If you're we're wrapping it up for this week. Thanks so much for listening and for sticking it out and for letting me drag this out to the last minute. This is the summer series, man. This is going to go on through September, and then once October shows up, at the end of the first week of October, then we'll do like a really, really nice big jumbo episode, and we'll have some bonus features, and we'll have a nice party. Thanks so much for hanging out and for keeping this YouTube channel alive for 11 years. It's awesome. I really enjoy doing it still. I'll see you guys next week.